Hey folks, welcome to episode 24 of the Mile 20 podcast where epic shit happens. I am Laura and I am here with my bestie Lorri, and her daughter Maggie joins us this week. Yay,
Hello.
Maggie. Yay. Hello.
Howdy, I'm back.
Yay. I love it when you join us. It's so much fun. Actually, you're with us every week. It's just I love it when you join us when you're on camera.
That's the secret. I'm usually shoved in the corner. Very
Well, it's like nobody puts baby in the corner, right?
It's like the Hogwarts closet or the Harry under the stairs. We're all just
It is totally Harry under the stairs. Yes. Except we don't have a bed for you. We just give you a folding chair. But it does have cushioning on it. So that's a plus. That's a plus. Well, Maggie is joining us this week because we are talking about the Grand Rapids, Michigan Marathon. And this was, Maggie, your first marathon. Yay. So we're excited because we're going to get a very different perspective than like things that Lorri and I have talked about the past, couple of episodes, where Maggie's going to talk about what it was like to run her first marathon and some of the exciting things and some of the trials and tribulations, right? That you go through, running your first marathon. And during the episode today, we're going to share stories about unicorns and Bruce Saders and tears. But before we jump into what our Mile 20 beverages of the week, we just want to remind everyone to check our socials and, get out there, like us, subscribe to our episodes. We just went through some really cool data that Maggie's been tracking for us, and we are in almost every single state in the country right now, which is super exciting. And so we're gonna have to call out, Maggie, maybe next episode, some of those states where we're not covering. So, if people know friends and they can go and send out the links to folks in those states, we can go and cover all the United States. But we're in Russia, and we're in Portugal, and we're in, where else are we in? France.
All sorts of cool places.
I mean, a ton of places across the globe. So it's super exciting to see the data. So keep it coming, and give us feedback, as you listen to the episodes. So Lorri and Maggie, what are you guys drinking this week? What's your Mile 20 beverage?
Oh, does Maggie have a Mile 20 beverage?
You have one?
I don't. I'm letting everyone down. I'm drinking water this week, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. Mom and I were in Cranberry Lake this week, so we had a lot of beverages consumed. So I'll let Mom take that over because she's still there living.
Giving the liver a little bit of a break, huh?
Yes.
What about you, Lorri?
Probably a much needed break. Mine probably needs a break at this point, but I'll take one for the team. And yes, still coming from Cranberry Lake. And if anything goes black in this episode for any reason for me, we have some storms going on, and sometimes our power is iffy at best. So we're crossing our fingers that everything stays fine for the rest of this recording. But today I was looking for a Founders all day IPA, but again, we have limited resources up here because that is actually in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We actually went and had beverages at Founders while we were in Grand Rapids. But instead, I found Bell's Brewing Two-Hearted IPA, which is from Comstock, Michigan, which is on the, I don't even know where that is. But this particular beer is named after two of the rivers on the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. So,
up on the UP. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Well, I like Maggie. I'm drinking water. But I have, as I shared with you two girls before the episode, I have a little bit of a stomach bug that I think picked up in my travels. Talk about, what my epic, I guess my epic 2 weeks here in a couple minutes, but I did pick up a little bit of stomach bug. So the thought of drinking any kind of alcohol or eating anything right now is just like, bleh. So anyway, I'm drinking water. But what I did want to share is I found a really cool new drink. And maybe Maggie, we can go and post this because of course I got like some really cool pictures of the drinks while we were there. But the drink is you take a a nice big solid, like a good sized wine goblet. And you take the outside rinds of an orange and a little bit of lemon peel, and you like rub inside of the glass with like the orange and the lemon, right? So you're like really kind of seasoning that glass. Fill it with as many ice cubes as you want. So Jim and I, we filled it up about halfway. And then you take a white port wine and you do a 50-50 ratio. So the way that somebody else made it for us, they were like, it's half and half. So they put their fingers like halfway up the glass. I was like, oh shit, that's a lot of port they're pouring. Because port has a lot of alcohol in it. It's wine and brandy that are basically made together. And then the other half of the glass is a tonic, and then they finish it off with a sprig of mint, and it is absolutely
Ooh, that sounds
delicious.
yummy.
And they call it a Porto tonic. So these were very, very popular in Porto, Portugal. But I sound like I'm from like Texas, Porto,
Porto.
Portugal. And yeah, they were really good. But Jim and I, we decided that if we were going to make them at home, we would not make it with tonic because we're both not big fans of tonic. So we would actually substitute some club soda in there, which when you substitute club soda, it's called a Porto Fizz. So
Ah.
yes, so but we had the Porto tonics. So that is my contribution today, even though I'm not drinking.
No, it's fair. It's fair. So why don't you dive in and talk to us about your exciting trip that you took?
Oh my gosh. So Jim and I took a 2-week excursion to Portugal. We had never been, and we decided that we were going to do 6 cities in 2 weeks. So it sounds like a lot, but Portugal is not a huge country. So all of the 6 locations that we did were all within like max a 3-hour drive of each other. So I can't remember how many kilometers Jim said we put on the car, but we landed in Lisbon, and then which is a fabulous old city. It's the capital of the country. The only thing, and Lori, you know how we feel about this, lots and lots of cruise ships. I think the
Oh,
the 4 nights that we were there, there had to be about 6 different cruise ships that rotated in, so it was constant. And unbeknownst to me, where we booked our hotel, it was like really close to where the cruise ship terminal was.
oh,
So we weren't really big fans of that because it was kind of touristy. So of course Jim and I, like, we got the hell out of there and went a little deeper into the city. But in Lisbon we saw Imagine Dragons concert, and the folks in Portugal freaking rocked that concert out. That was our 10th time seeing Imagine Dragons, and by far that was probably our most favorite concert.
wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
exciting. So how many different countries have you seen Imagine Dragons in?
Um, 3. So the United States, Italy, and Portugal.
Okay.
So yeah, so we were actually like, I was like, they're playing next week in Madrid. Like, it's like it's a little addictive, but they just put on a great show, and we've been following them since 2014, I think. So it's just exciting to see them grow as a band, and I mean that was probably one of their second largest venues they've ever played at. So that
Wow.
that was pretty cool. Then we made it our way down south to Lagos, which is on the Agave Coast, and that was like our beach trip, which was cool. The only bad thing was that we had a kayak trip planned, like a sunrise trip, and to see like the caves, and a cool sunrise going through the caves, and the swells of the ocean were just too rough. So that got canceled, but we made the
Oh,
best of
that's a
it.
bummer.
Had an absolutely fabulous time, and then from there we went to Evora, and Evora is where they have the Chapel of Bones. It is a chapel that the entire inside of the chapel is made of skulls and people's bones, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, were these like prisoners? Like, did they dig up a cemetery and then they're like, oh, it's just extra material? No, actually, there's a couple of them in Portugal, and the lore is that people had basically who had contributed to the church, had donated their bodies, their bones for this purpose. So that way, as they lay in interment, they would be, just perpetually in the church.
Interesting.
Y'all, like it was
Catacombs.
fucking creepy, man. It was like like I was like, Jim, like the whole like ceiling was lined with like skulls. Like it just I was like, I wonder, like fact wise, has anybody stood in there and counted how many bodies they think is actually like in like just even skulls? Because I couldn't even count. I could not even count, y'all. Then we went to in Evra, it was real feel about 117 degrees.
Yeah, you were there in the height of that heat wave, weren't you?
We were. So we didn't do much during the day. I mean, people really kind of come out at nighttime. So, fortunately we went and had a pool at our hotel, but we only stayed there one night. Then we made our way to Coimbra, and that was a cool city. It was very dirty, but it had like the palace there. And it had like just this world famous, like one of the oldest libraries. And
Oh,
actually,
yes, that pictures. Oh my gosh, they looked so amazing.
yeah. And cool fact is that they have bats that actually live behind the bookshelves. And at nighttime, the bats come out and they eat the moths. So that the books, don't get eaten. I mean, some of the books I mean, just they're ancient.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
the staff lines all the tables and floors with these Russian imperial like leather cloths. And because bats poop, right? And I'm like, there's no way, because like you walk in and when you're in a cave or something, you smell like bat scat. It's like it's
Yeah,
nasty, right? Didn't smell like that at all. These people come in every morning and clean up bat shit
that's insane.
Yeah, that's
every morning. Now, what I really wanted to do, and we just lost track of time, they leave one window open in the library, so because the bats need water. So the bats fly in and out of this window all night long, so that way they can go and get their water, but then they come back in and eat the moths and bugs or whatever, is in the library.
That's crazy.
So that was cool. But I mean, Coimbra, like it's like kind of like reminds me of Rome, where it's like a city built on a city, built on a city. It's like a lasagna city, and very very tight streets. But because the university is there, a lot of young people. It's dirty. It's a dirty city, but it has fantastic bones to it. It just great architecture. Some of the architecture reminds me of like Paris. But and then from Coimbra, we went to the Eastern Douro Valley, and that was our lovely. We had rented a room. It was basically like a casa in the middle of a vineyard, and we had our own private pool. There was really nobody around us. We stayed there for 2 nights and just kind of just stayed there. So fantastic staff, and that was Velado winery, and it was that everything about that was fantastic. And then we made our way to Porto. And Porto was kind of like a good mix between Lisbon and Coimbra. So a lot of great bones to it. They're going through a tremendous revival once they put in a new airport a couple of years ago. So now they have direct flights to Porto and tons of tourists. Like it was the first time we had done like a breakfast at the hotel, and they were actually pouring like milk into people's coffee. And I mean, you can't, like, they don't do milk and coffee or cream and coffee anywhere else but Porto, because there were so many tourists there. They just, it was kind of like really Americanized, like some of the breakfast stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot. But yeah, so those are the six cities. I mean, guys, I could talk forever and ever and ever, but I would highly recommend it. The only thing is that if you do go to Portugal, prepare to just walk hills everywhere. It puts San Francisco to shame. And I
Really?
saw a lot of families that brought their kids there. I would not recommend Portugal as a trip for young children. Like teens, yes, like, let's call it like 12, 13 years and older, because, they can kind of tough it up these hills. But I mean, there were kids that were really freaking miserable and parents that were miserable. I wish I had taken like a collage of like every poor parent I saw that was just like, why the hell did we do this? But I would highly recommend it. The food was fantastic. The wine was fantastic, just everything about it. Just, you know, so, but glad to be back though and get into like our routines again, but just absolutely fantastic time with my hubby. And it's always just really fun exploring new places with him.
Yeah. So is there any one place that you wish you'd spent more time in that you didn't have enough time?
I would have wanted to spend maybe one last night in Lisbon, another night in Lagos. So spending like 3 nights in Lagos because the resort that we went to there was it was 5 star. It was absolutely spectacular. It was like on a cliff. It just was really nice.
Yeah.
And then probably another night at the winery, just again because of just kind of being unplugged and relaxing. And we didn't get to do some of the activities we wanted to in the river. But it was cool watching. They have like these huge river boats, like river boat excursions. You can do like overnight tours on the Douro River. So it was neat, you know, watching that. But they had paddle boards and kayaks and stuff, and we just didn't venture.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes you need more of a chill experience while you're out there instead of
We
going
we we
hard.
did. We did. But we got in like, I don't know, like, anywhere from like 10 to like almost 20,000 steps a day and caught a couple of boat rides, for like sunset stuff. So yeah, we got in and we painted tiles in Porto. So that was it
Aw.
was cool. Yeah, yeah. We broke it up with a couple of different activities as well. So what you guys been I know Laura, you've been up at Cranberry for like ever.
Yeah, this is my third week. This is awesome.
I know. Is this the longest you've been up at Cranberry
Yes.
consecutively? I think so,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And we've been having a great time. I was here by myself for a few days, and that was fun because I knew everybody was coming up. So it was great when they all got here Monday. When did you get up here? Oh, you got up here Friday.
I drove right after work, got up
Oh,
there late. Yeah, so I wanted to wake up there on Saturday.
oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah, you guys got in at 11 p.m. though. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad because we left like essentially right at 4:30 when I was done work.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we had Ella and her friend Kate, and they came in on Sunday and with Dave,
Sure, I don't remember.
I think. And then DJ and Mari came up on Tuesday, I think. Yeah.
Nice.
But Maggie and I had a lot of together time last week and doing some pretty epic amounts of mileage in various sports.
30, 35 miles on our feet, 7 miles paddling with our arms. So we did a
Ooh.
Yeah.
16-mile long run in Cranberry Lake, and we were pondering, is this worse than a Chester Springs 12 as far as hills go?
Mm.
I don't know if we reached a verdict. It was really hilly though.
Okay. So just for context for our listeners, the Chester Springs hilly course that Maggie is referring to is kind of like in the backyard of where Lorri and Dave's house is at. And when we have a 12-mile run, sometimes we frequent that trail that Lorri has created. It's just roads, but goodness, it's hilly.
It's 1,500 feet of elevation over 12 miles. So yes, it's a very nice 12-mile shorter course when you need to have put in some hill work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the debate is out between Cranberry Lake and Chester Springs bringing the hillier course. Okay.
I'm going to maintain, I feel like it's Chester Springs just
Yeah,
because.
because we didn't break 1,000 feet, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I had, before Maggie got here, tried to attempt a 14 miler and was like accosted by what I thought were black flies, but then turned out to be deer flies because even though we're so far north, we're actually either equal with Toronto or a little north of Toronto where we are. And like the heat spell made its way up here, and every time it's hot and humid, it's been that way the last 2 days too. Like I went out today and the deer flies were accosting me before I even got up the steps. It was so bad. But I forfeited because the dogs were being attacked and everything, and it was just too much. So we turned around and I did not do the 14 miler like I was supposed to. I waited until Maggie got here and we did the 16, and it was like 50s in the morning. And I
Oh,
thought,
nice.
oh, it'll be quiet, too cold for bugs. And then it warmed up.
Yes. you can see on our Instagram the picture of her fly hat because the flies like dive bomb your head. Like I just had my hair in a bun and a headband on, and they were like nestled in the headband, like around my bun. It was so gross.
The picture that you sent us with Lori, the back of your hat and all the flies like attached to the back of your hat. It was over 20 flies like attached to your hat. That was the most disgusting thing.
Yeah, so I went on to the 50 states Facebook page and I'm like, hey, anybody in the Adirondacks, can you please help me out on how you run with the flies up here? Because I don't know how to do this. This is really bad. And so somebody suggested this deer fly tape that you can get on Amazon, but luckily the general store had it. So I picked some up there. And so it's just this tape you put on the back of a hat, but you have to sacrifice the hat because it leaves a residue.
Yeah.
But holy crap, the flies. It was almost full after our 16 miler.
It looked almost full like that. I remember you sending the picture and I was showing Jim and I was like, dude, it's like, oh.
Yeah. Our middle mileage got real bad. Like we were in like a hot zone of them for a while between like mile, what would you say, 7 and 9, Maggie?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so like we were like speeding through that mileage. We're like, let's just keep going. Just keep going.
It's like, we're doing negative splits in the middle of our run.
Well, that brings me to then on Friday we did.
Wait, don't skip our 7-mile kayak, which was in between
we did
the
a 7-mile
two.
kayak that was absolutely stunning on the Racket River, and after we went to a brewery.
Nice.
Really
Racket River Brewing, we love you.
Nice.
Now to the important part. The 6-mile firecracker 10K that we did on July 4th morning. We were like 2 of 20-ish that did the 10K. Everyone else 5K, which was probably like 60 to 70 people. So total probably 100 people around there.
That's a good showing though for up there.
Yeah. Our official time for a 6.2-mile run is 1 hour and 48 seconds. But our watches really said 1 hour and 10 minutes, which is equally as impressive because our average pace was like 11 minutes. We were zooming.
That's awesome.
We did negative splits for 6 miles.
We did. I was like, that one was 10:57. That one was 10:40. And I was, I think, in more pain than she was. We were definitely cruising it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like it was a good showing too for the race.
Definitely.
Yes. I came in last in my age group and third in my age group. Whoop, whoop.
I came in first in my age group, 1 of 1, but no one needs to know that.
Never, ever, ever have to share that, you know? It is what it is.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah. No, it sounds like I know going up to Cranberry Lake, having visited there, it's just such a calming place, you know, and you just can't help but relax when you're up there.
Definitely.
Very true. Very true. But then on Saturday, it became even more epic. So not only were we not fully over the firecracker that had just happened on Friday, but poor Connor was also hungover from the 4th of July. And we decided to get up at 4 a.m. I think we were out of the house by like 4:45 a.m.
That your hike?
Yeah, we hiked Whiteface Mountain and Esther Mountain, got 2 of the 46 peaks that are over 4,000 feet done. But in the process, you also climbed over Marble Mountain, which was like 2,500 feet, and Lookout Mountain, which was like 3,500 feet before you got to Esther and Whiteface. So we were on our feet for another 9 hours.
Yeah.
Poor Connor.
The day after.
It's literally like boyfriend hazing.
Total hazing, man. It's like, oh, you got a hangover? Come on, let's go for like a 9-hour hike. How are the trails? Are they pretty groomed, or do they have switchbacks on them, or are they just the straight up ones like normal in New York?
Yeah. Just like there's mountain climate, boulders, rocks, whatever's in your way, you just figure it out straight up.
Yeah.
I think it was like almost 3,800 feet of elevation.
Yes.
Good effort, man.
Straight up and then straight down. But yeah, it was fun. It was a great trip, very relaxing. Back to reality.
Yeah, it was relaxing in between each of those. Like those were all like we did something almost every other day except for Friday and Saturday. We're kind of back to back, but
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And it's nice when you can go and share it with your family as well.
yeah,
And have, like I'm just gonna call you a kid, Maggie. So like when you have your kids, that, and their significant others that are willing to go and follow your crazy or do your crazy with you. So
yeah. I
or
just
encourage
wish
the
my
crazy
other
and then you
ones.
follow them.
I wish Maggie or I mean DJ or Ella would, and they're like I wish they were all crazy too, but I haven't quite sucked them in yet.
Yeah, yeah, they got their own things.
Yeah, I feel like Mari's a maybe. I feel like we can maybe get Mari on board.
Yeah, all she
DJ's
needs is a pair
girlfriend.
of hiking boots, she said.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the gear.
Sounds like you need to go to a trip to REI.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you
Most
guys, you
definitely.
guys ready to get into the marathon?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we did the Grand Rapids Marathon on October 20th in 2019. So this was one of our stints of time, Lori, where we were hitting it like hard in terms of like the number of races that fall. So Maggie, knowing that this was your first marathon, why Grand Rapids? Why'd you choose this one?
I think it felt perfectly timing wise, and it was a place I had never been as far as the state of Michigan goes. And so I was in high school at the time. So I was also very limited with when I could go and do things. And I was a competitive dancer growing up, so that took up most of my weekends. And so I just think the timing of being able to train in the summer, fall race, definitely couldn't do this any type of spring race being in high school. It just all the stars aligned for it to be the Grand Rapids race.
And Grand Rapids, it's pretty flat too. So that was also a very, very nice like extra Benny. Although I don't think there was like even a factor like of why you chose you chose it because it was a flat race, right?
Well, I think also sometimes some of the marathons, their minimum age is also over 18. So
Yes,
you have
yes.
to find one that
Yep.
allows an underage person to be able to do it as well. And Grand Rapids is definitely one of those that was more welcoming to younger kids running a
Yeah, I remember
marathon.
that being a thing, like just looking at here's the handful of races available and then which one also married up with Maggie your dance schedule at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the one thing that they were doing and they still do it now is a half, a relay, a 10K and a 5K.
Yep.
So and the race starts downtown and it's got a like even though Grand Rapids is a decent sized city, it still has a real like, kind of small town feel, right?
Yeah, I really appreciated Grand Rapids downtown. I think one of the allures of actually running in Grand Rapids is the fact that well, and us being mile 20 with our mile 20 beverages. Back in 2020, 2012, they were dubbed Beer City USA. That was like a nationwide vote and they have an ale trail there, Beer City Ale Trail, that has like 35 plus breweries on it, all within the Grand Rapids area. They have a really cool app where you can go and like, if you go to a certain amount of breweries, you can get a free shirt. Like it's just, I don't know. I found Grand Rapids to be a really cool vibe. And I feel like I probably could have spent more time there than we did because I really wanted to hit more breweries than we did. Because I think we only hit like maybe four.
Yeah, and I remember that you and Jim were looking at that ale trail thing and every brewery that you guys hit with Maggie and I. Maggie and I
Yes.
were kind of sitting there like, wah wah, because Maggie was in high school and I have celiac and that no place had like gluten-free beer. So we were like, oh, soda.
Playing whatever games they offered at the brewery.
Right? Yeah, because most breweries too don't. It's very rare when they carry like wine or some other beverage if like their thing is the brew. So, but yeah, I remember you were like, let's hit more. I want a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, we just didn't,
It's all
never
about the
happened.
swag, Lorri. It's all
It's
about
all
the
about,
swag.
I love my lists. I have to check off my list.
She's
There's a
like, it's
list
a
of
list.
breweries. I have to go check all these off.
Oh my gosh. So, the expo, no expo, wah wah.
No,
Wah.
it was just a packet pickup at the YMCA. Super simple and easy, you know. But I have to say, their race director, like when you go on to the Grand Rapids Marathon website, their race, I think, I almost feel like I thought about this today as I was reading through the website again. I'm like, I feel like maybe we should interview him. His name is Don Kern, and he is just like, his personality is oozing all over the website. When you look at like the questions answered fact sections, like it's just kind of snarky, but in a fun
Oh, that's
way.
so our vibe.
Yeah. And I'm like, I forgot how like the whole vibe of this race is just so welcoming and so inclusive.
I agree.
And it was just, it's well run. It's a well run race. So I feel like the whole race is just so welcoming. And they've actually added something that they did not have, I don't believe, in 2019 when we ran it. They have a, what did they call it? Like a
Velocity challenge.
for the velocity challenge
For the velocity
start.
challenged people, which I love. I love that. It's not for the like the slow people. If you have velocity challenges, you can
Yes. If
start
you,
early.
yeah, so they have, which I'm loving this trend that I'm seeing more and more with different races, is they have a 7, so it's normally an 8 a.m. start time, but if you think that you're going to start, it's going to take you 6 hours or longer, you may start an hour
Yeah.
earlier at 7 a.m., which is wonderful. But another bonus to Grand Rapids, which is amazing, is that they don't have a cutoff time.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I mean, people finish in 9 hours and they're like, listen, it says it on the website in his little snarky way. He's like, listen, we start cleaning up at 2:30. We'll save you some food and some water. There will be stuff for you at the end, but we have to start cleaning up at some point. So I don't know. I just found it. It's like it's a top-notch race. It was well run.
It was very well run, and now because the velocity challenged option was not available for us at the time, we did the start at 8 a.m.
Yes.
And we because it was chilly. It was chilly the morning that we started the race. It was 47 degrees at the start, and it was like, if I remember, like it was one of those like it was like a cold 47, right?
Yeah, it felt chilly, like
Yeah,
cold,
and
wet.
it ended up being about 68 degrees when we finished because we finished in our tank tops. We still had at least Maggie and I had running tights on. I think Lorri, you had shorts on because you're cray cray at 47
Well,
degrees.
because no, but the finish, it was supposed to be in the upper 60s by the time we finished, and that's way too hot
So
for
cold,
tights.
so cold,
Too hot
so
for
cold.
tights. Too hot.
But Maggie, what did we wear at the start? Because this is something that we don every once in a while in the start of races.
Yes, as they've said before, with the cow onesie, a bear onesie, the three of us wore unicorn onesies. And I remember as a first-time marathoner, the morning of the race, just the whole routine of like, you poop, I poop, you poop, I poop. And like getting up like 3 hours early. I was like, why do we have to wake up that early? And then I was like, oh, as we're like a revolving door, getting to experience even like that for the first time was like silly and fun.
It is crazy. Like it's those little routine things that you don't even think about, and you know and it happens like even when you're on race like number 62, you know, where your body's like, oh, we're gonna go through some stuff today, like need to go and
Evacuate.
take care of things.
Evacuate.
In fact, it was funny because when Jim and I would be leaving while we were on vacation, we would be leaving to go out and walk all day long, right? And you know, because bathrooms, unless we were going into a restaurant, like they're just few and far between. So it would almost be like I'm going out before I'm doing the race. I'm like, oh, do I have to poop one more time? Do I have to go one more time? And I kept telling Jim, I was like, I got the race shits. Like my body's going, no, you need to expel before you go out and go, like trudging through the city all day long. So, but Maggie, what happened to our onesies? Because we took them off at the start because it was a little cold. Do you remember?
I don't remember what.
We took them off and we tucked them away behind some bushes, like on the side of a building, because they were cool. They were unicorns, but they had like almost like a sherbet, like white and
They were
blue.
kind of like almost sparkly
A
too, like they
rainbow
had
unicorn.
stars.
It was like rainbowy kind of thing, like with stripes and but we liked them and it was like, oh, like let's try to retrieve them, after the race. And unfortunately, we went back and I mean, we hid those pretty damn good. And somebody must have seen us tucking those away and somebody took them. So that was my only wah-wah that those weren't
Yeah, but
available.
we all know too when we do that there's
We
a high
do, we
probability
do.
they're
We buy
gone.
them on what, Amazon or in Walmart for, $20 and we're less than that. And it is what it is. But every once in a while you get one of the cool ones, like your cow and the bears. I still have my bear.
I love
Um,
the bear.
yeah, where you hold on to it and you're like, yeah, I can't just let it go. So
Yeah, for sure.
so where did we stay?
Oh, we stayed at the AC Hotel, which
Yeah.
is a Marriott property in Grand Rapids. Now, I will say I highly recommend, very great property, great hotel, close to downtown, walkable to a lot of the breweries and all that. But
Yeah.
it was like 15 minutes from the start, so not overly ideal as far as closeness. Did Jim drop us off that morning? I was trying
I
to
think
remember
I
how we
yeah,
got
I think
there.
he did. I think he did just because it was a little too far for us. He dropped us off in an area and then I remember walking through like a parking lot and I don't know. I just recall there being like some fairground, not a fairground, but like some stadium parking lot. There was just like a big parking lot that we walked through.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think
but
we
yeah,
started, the start is right next to the YMCA where the packet pickup is. So it's just all kind of
in the
in the
same
same
spot.
area. Yeah.
Yeah, but there were some hotels that were closer to the start. It's just that we just ended up going and staying there. I think that one had like it was one of the nicer ones in the area, and I think we got a good rate on that one as well. So,
Yeah, it was nice. No, I liked it a lot. I unfortunately, as far as the course goes, I've kind of have a little bit of amnesia. Like there wasn't a whole lot of standout beauty, crazy crowd. Like I just don't remember much from the course, but it is exactly the same course now as it was then. So nothing has changed, which is nice. I do remember going through a lot of the marshlands and the parks and all that. And I think we spent a lot of time in Millennium Park. And I think we buffered through another park like Butterworth Park or something like that. Um,
I remember that as well. A lot of greenery, and I think that there
yes,
was an out and back at some point.
yes, there was an out and back.
Maybe around mile 20.
yes,
Yes. Hmm. And
yeah,
I,
yeah. There was definitely a little bit of an out and back, and we did cross over the river a couple of times because just going back before the podcast today, just reminiscing, using pictures to help jog the memory. There were a lot of bridge pictures.
mhm.
So we definitely went over some bridges but I did appreciate, some of the water features whether it was I think there were a couple of lakes, that we got to see and some rivers, but it was not heavy on crowds, on
No.
spectators at all. So if you're looking for a race where you're going to get that big rah rah, this isn't the race, but I don't know. There was something about the course. Maybe it's because it was flat. There weren't a lot of like ridiculous turns in the race. I don't know. It was well marked. I enjoyed the course. It was very just kind of peaceful, I guess is that.
Yeah.
But nothing. And I agree. But nothing that stands out. Okay, so Maggie's laughing.
Wait. Yeah. Did Maggie find it
So
peaceful? This is.
Maggie, this being your
Tell
first
us.
marathon and your mom and I maybe had a little bit of a different experience. Why don't you share with everybody what your experience was going through your first marathon?
I'm laughing because I don't remember it being peaceful at all. Yeah, I remember the beginning more vividly than I remember the end. And I think there's a couple of things that come into play. Like one, my age, like to like, I don't know, just like what was going on in life. I don't really remember the whole trip that well. I just like will never forget the feeling that I felt at mile 12
So
when
what was that feeling?
extreme anxiety and panic when we were, because well, me and mom were also breaking it down this past week when we were running the 6 miler, because like training for the race, obviously I did the high mileage and everything, but I wasn't really like running fast, or we were walking a lot and it was very casual. Whereas when we got into the race atmosphere and we were running for like 7 miles straight, we hadn't really done that before. Like we would take like a walking break at like mile like 3, mile
Yeah.
5. Like it was just very like a more laid back training schedule, which when I got into the race atmosphere, we were going really, at least in my head, we were going really fast at the beginning. And by the time we got to mile 12, I was exhausted. And I remember seeing mile 12 and I was just like, oh my God, I'm not even halfway. Like, this isn't even the halfway point, and I'm so tired and I feel terrible. And I think I remember my foot hurting in a weird spot. I don't know if it was hurting at that point in time, but since then I've had IT band issues. So it was probably just a myriad of things. But I had my first ever panic attack in my life, which at the time I don't even think I knew that that was what was happening.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Like, I can't run. Like, just like literally my breath was taken away from me because I was just like overcome by feelings.
But you
So
didn't stop.
yeah, so like I mean, panic attacks are just it can be totally debilitating, right? And like it just like freeze you in your tracks. So the fact, Maggie, that between your mom and I talking to you, whatever, conversation you were having in your head, you were able to regulate kind of where you were at. I don't remember how long we were at that point, but I mean we weren't there for like a really really long time. And you just I don't know. You showed so much grit and perseverance. And I was so super proud of you. But then it was one of those things where, as a fellow runner and a mom, right? Because I'm like, I'm mom number two. So, and I know your
Yeah.
mom was the same way. It was like, we had such a heightened awareness of you the entire race, like the entire
Yeah.
second half of the race, because, for you to show like, just be vulnerable and show like what you were feeling at that time. I mean, it happens. It happens to people like hiking, I mean, it could happen for any reason whatsoever. But super proud of you that, whatever went on in your head and however we helped you, that you were able to take another step forward and you finished the fucker.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely could not have done it without you guys, because I probably would have just stopped there and finished. But you guys were a great support, and I feel like it was also like, okay, you guys were like, just one step, like we can do whatever you need, like we can walk, we can do this. And I was like, okay, yeah, we can do those things and just get through it. But it was definitely such a feeling of accomplishment when I finished and I could go to school the next like a couple of days later and be like, I ran a marathon, I ran a marathon. And I don't know, it was just a cool feeling to actually have done it and finished it.
It
It's
was I'd say it's kind of fun for us too, because as being seasoned runners, seasoned marathoners, like we usually skip some of like all the little
taking your
rigor.
picture at the end with
Yeah,
like, this
like
is
I
my
finished a
first marathon. And
marathon. Yeah, ringing the bell. So they have a bell at the end of the Grand Rapids Marathon. I have a video of Maggie ringing the bell
that's
or
right.
signing the banner. Like there was just things that like as you progress through, and I think that that was like our 20th state at
It
that point.
was.
So we're almost halfway into our endeavors. And yet we'd already ran marathons before we even started on the actual states. So like some of that kind of falls by the wayside. So it was kind of cool going through all of that with you, Maggie, like where we were, watching you do all the stuff that, that a first time marathoner should do.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you guys remember, because I saw the picture, do you remember the gentleman that we ended up picking up along the way, like towards the end of the course? And he was struggling to come in and he was walking And so we had our music going, right? So for people who are haters, for people who have, music going, on speakers, we had our music going. We were focusing on Maggie, getting her across the finish line. But those last couple miles, I want to say it was like maybe like the last like 2 miles, we picked up this gentleman, and not literally picked him up, but like he joined our little posse. He was a very tall man, and he joined us. And we just kept encouraging and singing, and he's like, "Oh, you ladies, you're bringing it! Like, thank you so much." And so at the very end, it was lovely because we ended up getting a picture taken with him as well. So, it's one of those things where when you're racing, it's if you're not like number one and two finishing the race, it's just about like the community, right? And helping your fellow runner out on your team, like Maggie, or somebody else that you see is struggling. You're like, hey, join us, like join us. Like we're gonna distract the hell out of you, and you're gonna not even realize you just ran 2 miles. I think that's what we did, Maggie, like the last couple miles for you.
Definitely. Because I remember even like at mile 20, my foot was like, oh my gosh. And 20 was the farthest I had ever run before, which I'm changing this year. I'm hoping to run 22 before 26, but that's
no. You're not hoping, you're going to.
I'm going to. But I feel like that's one thing as a first-time marathoner I wish I did different. I wish I had gotten up to 22 instead of 20, because 4 seems a lot easier than 6, at least in my head.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
Yeah.
And I think at that 20-mile point, I was like, oh my gosh, 6 more miles. Like so I think that was another bad point in the race too for me, even though mile 20 is usually celebratory.
Yeah, I do recall, and I'm not sure what mile marker it was at. I think it was maybe like 24, 25. Do you remember when we had a bunch of young guys that like just started like running faster, and they started passing us? And Lorri, you and I were like, oh no, like we're totally like, and I think we were all fast enough to like bring it and give them a run for their money. But that Maggie was like, my foot, my foot.
And I was like,
all right,
son
Maggie.
of a bitch.
Well,
no,
okay.
if you remember, we had our music going and we were singing and having fun, and we were coming up on them.
Yeah.
And I think they turned around and saw us, and they were like, oh, hell no. And so they started speeding up, and we were like,
that's exactly what the circumstances were. Because, like that happens. I mean, and I might have mentioned it in other episodes, but every once in a while we're in a race where, and again, people start at all different times. So you don't even know if like the person who's in front of you started like an hour before you or like they started after you and they passed you at some point in time. But like Lorri has a habit, and I've picked this up every once in a while, where we see a runner in front of us. Now, granted, y'all, we are velocity challenged. I'm going to use that from now on. That needs to be on a shirt. But we are velocity challenged. So it's not like, we're racing people, in the race. But every once in a while, we like pick out somebody where you're like, that person's not going to cross the finish line before me.
No. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking that we forgot a story. I think it was the mill race in Indiana.
Is that the one where the one guy like started sprinting?
The one guy at the end.
And you and I were like, fuck you, there's no way you're gonna beat us.
We were in the downtown. We were like on the 0.2 miles to the finish, and this old guy starts fucking
and he was big.
Sprinting.
He was a heavier guy. Yeah.
We were like, oh no. Oh no. And you and I are like,
I finished that race with like that copper taste in my mouth where it's like, oh, there could be blood coming out soon. And we're like,
fuck you.
Yeah. But no, I loved the pictures that we took at the end of the race, Maggie, and you get the medal, and you put it in your mouth. In fact, the medal I have behind me here, we'll talk about it in a couple minutes, but it's one of the nicer.
Though?
What's that?
That looks like Green Bay over your shoulder.
Yeah, that's not the right one.
That's not Grand Rapids.
Okay, because that's 2022. It's still up in that area. I didn't even look at it. I saw G and okay, well, the
Wait, does Maggie have hers? Do you have your medal?
Do you have your medal with you? Okay, well, I'm not going to interrupt the podcast and we'll put a picture of the medal.
But Maggie is sporting the shirt, and that I have to say, it's one of my favorite shirts. It is a flattering fit.
It is.
I love that
look
shirt.
Great, Maggie, in that. It's like flats and then Maggie. It is what it is.
I come by it, honestly.
They are flattering shirts. This is one of my favorite shirts. I try not to, I try not to scum this one up too much. Like it's just, I like wearing it. And I don't like getting it all like nasty and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those shirts.
Yeah. And
it didn't hit the garbage.
I bought a tank top from the expo because it was like first marathon and the expo was small, but I still wanted to buy something to have more apparel.
Yeah.
And I have a gray tank top with this little logo on it in orange. That is also a really, really sturdy tank top that I wear.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah. I love a really, really good tank top.
Yeah. They also gave us free socks, didn't they?
They did.
Yes.
I think that's their thing because I see it still on their Instagram. They still do the socks. So.
I still have the socks. And in fact, I should have probably grabbed those. Although it's really warm here, so I don't know if I would be sporting the socks at all. But talking about tank tops, so we got into, for a period of time, making up tank tops with this fabulous saying on the front of it. And it says, "You can't do epic shit with basic bitches."
Hell yeah.
And so we were wearing those shirts. So we started wearing those, I think, with Julie, right? Julie Shannon.
I think that was a Ragnar race that we did, that we started those, right?
We got them for a Ragnar, and then we used them for, one of our marathons, and then we used them with Maggie. And I think, did we have them for Maddie for one race as well? I think Maddie's got a basic bitches shirt.
That was the
Mesa Falls.
No, maybe, but I think she wore that for the Ragnar too.
Oh,
what was that? The Niagara.
Yeah, maybe that's where she has it from. Yeah, you're right. That was probably the Niagara Falls one. Yeah.
So we're going to do a podcast at some point where we go into the Ragnar relays, because that is a really cool running event in and of itself, and we've done a couple of those. So I think we'll touch base on those very soon, I would say.
Yeah. So where did that saying come from? Did someone make this up, or did you see it somewhere?
I saw it somewhere, and my life mantra, I think, after my brother Ned passed away in 2004, was, man, you have to live every day and just do epic shit. And that is, I kind of put that on everything. I mean, I put that shit on everything.
Yes.
I'm really classy. I even have like pillows made up with it and stuff. So, and I end all of my work calls with, when I have a big team meeting with, like, I appreciate y'all, keep doing epic shit. It's just, to me, it's like, if you're going to go out and do something, why do it half-assed or like not at all, right? And just make it the best that you want it to be. And it doesn't have to be defined by anybody else. But if you feel like you got the most out of that particular experience, then hey, you know what? Keep doing epic shit. So on the back,
yeah.
Because you just don't know. You don't know when, your last day on this earth is. And I don't mean to sound morbid, but you just, it's about the experiences and things that make you happy.
Very true. I agree with that 100%. You only get one life, and you better live it to your fullest, or it will pass you by.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, talking about panic attacks, I do recall that we saw a snake on the course. I took a picture of a snake, and I don't remember how close it was, but I remember seeing a snake and like being a little wigged out by that. Do you guys remember the snake at all?
I remember, but I'm never really wigged out by snakes, because I'm always like, I'm like, and then I'm like, cool, let's look at it closer.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll talk about the race that we did in Nebraska and snakes. So we got to hold that one.
That was
That gave
funny
me
as
freaking
hell.
nightmares. Nebraska and snakes, nightmares. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, that was like Alaska, killer whales, and nightmares.
And bears, like big bears. Oh my God. I totally had nightmares about freaking orcas, like freaking eating me.
Yeah, in a kayak.
Like they were just gonna come up and just do like the Jaws thing, like, oh.
Now it's bad because there's all these like AI videos that are so stupid of like those things happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that real? And then I read the captions like hashtag AI generated. And I'm like, well, why are you generating all this scary stuff?
I know. I actually sent your mom and dad one in the little chat that we have between us and Jim and I. And do you remember, Lori? It was like, this is real. It was like an orca had like swallowed this guy's like
Oh, yeah.
son and then like spit him out.
Yeah. But I think that was before AI. I'm just gonna say that.
It was real. I
Yeah.
went and actually researched
That was before AI.
it was before AI. And yeah, so I was like, see, this could happen. But he spit him out.
Oh, you looked
Yeah.
that up before you were kayaking?
You know
No,
what? We need to save all of this. This is gonna come
I
for
know,
our
I
Alaska
know,
podcast.
I
This is
know,
our Alaska trip
I
when
know.
we went
I
up
know.
there
It's
to
just
run
these
that
things
marathon.
that could create panic attacks. I just, I'm just relating. I'm just relating.
Oh, my husband, you will never hear him sound like he loses his mind around snakes. Like
Really.
completely loses his mind.
So Dave and
Yes.
I, we no wonder we get along so well with each other. So
Yes.
we're really like, eh. I hate snakes. I think the thing I hate most about them is that they're unpredictable to me just because I don't know their nature and I am not as well versed. I know certain snakes and which ones are very, very dangerous, but there are some where I'm like, I have no clue. And it's just, I just always default to danger, danger, stranger danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So our mile 20 beverage it was a little later in the course, right?
I think it was like almost mile 21 because we were in Millennium Park quite a
Yeah.
bit and on some kind of trail. And so we had to find a place to bump up because I don't think Jim was in charge of it, right? I think we placed it and Jim showed up. I think we saw Jim around mile 23, which
Yes.
was so nice and so
Yes.
refreshing when you get a little cheer on from somebody, like, I know you, yay.
Well,
Yeah, Jim
there's no
Jim
one
was our lone supporter, and the reason why Jim came was now he had been to Michigan a lot because as a kid his dad and his stepmom lived in Michigan, and he used to, like they used to live in Grand Rapids, and so he wanted to kind of go back and kind of check out the town and see what he remembered, and kind of taking a little bit of a nostalgia walk. And if you remember, there were things that he recalled, other things where he was like, "This doesn't look familiar at all." But I just thought that was cool, as a
Yeah.
kid, just kind of going back to a place where you spent a lot of time.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the beauty of being able to travel and do marathons like that is to go into those places. I mean, I felt that way when we went to Louisville and ran that marathon. It was very nostalgic. And so I think, yeah, that was so cool. And it's funny because, like, sometimes we had Dave and it was you and I. Sometimes we have Jim and it was you and I. Jim, Maggie, Maddie. Like, it's always been like sometimes just you and I, but
But I love
others.
it. I love it when we have visitors. I love it even more when we have, the girl, I'm gonna just say the girls because the girls and Dave, because Dave has run with us as well, right? But running with, family members and some of our friends. I don't know, it just makes it fun and it shakes it up a little bit, and we're just enjoying the sport in each other,
Yeah.
and also, Maggie, to your point, like finishing the marathon and just reveling in that joy that we saw, in you, like, like I did this, and there's just nothing that can replace that, seeing somebody else, getting that much joy. So
And at the end
So
of the day,
Maggie,
we're just a big blended family at the end of the day.
yes, so true.
Yes.
Yes. So Maggie, do you have any tips, tricks, or things that you might want to offer for first time marathon training?
I think
Especially from a younger person's perspective, because you were so young when you did it.
yeah, I think from the first two things that I've learned, I wish I did more cross training. I was dancing at the time, but that's different than strength training. Wish I did more strength training, especially for my knees. I think just learning a lot about fuel and stuff was interesting because I don't know, you don't really think of that. And so just learning like what makes your stomach hurt. I mean, everyone's different, so you have to figure that out yourself, but fueling we do once every hour. I know some people do by mile. We do by time. So I think I like by time. And the last one, I wish I trained up to mile 22 instead of just mile 20. I think most of the intro marathon schedules just have you doing up to mile 20. I think at that point, there's not really a big difference between 20 and 22. So this time I'm going to go up to 22. And I think that that would have helped me a lot mentally for the first one if I had gone up to 22.
Those are great points. What did you do for your pre-race fueling? Which before you answer that, what is going on the bed behind you? Is that Tiger?
Yeah, that's Tiger.
Okay, because
I didn't even see that.
I kept seeing like it was like a blanket or a comforter moving, and I'm like, oh my God, it's alive! It's the blob! It's alive! And I was like, that's got to be the dog because Connor was in and out of the room, and then he left.
He's one of those dogs that likes to bury in a
Got a
blanket.
burrow.
So this little lump is him.
I kind of figured it was the dog, but I had to ask. All right, so
And
what did you do for
wait,
for pre-fuel eating or like before the race? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I've also evolved what I eat. I
Yeah.
went through a big phase with the last marathon where I would get the Simply Balanced snack packs that have like almonds, cranberries, and a cheese in them, and I would eat that before like a long run.
Okay.
I really loved those just because they were like salty and I love cheese. So it was delicious to me. But now I've been doing Rice Krispie treats, but I think at the time I wasn't eating anything before runs because that's what mom did. And I was just like following her footsteps. But now I'm like, why didn't I eat pre-run? Because I think I should have been eating pre-run. So now I eat pre-run. But
No,
I do
that's cool.
now or those snack things.
But again, everybody's different, right? So it's test and test and test and see what works for you. And even then, something that worked for you 5 years ago might not work for you now, right? Because your body
yeah.
continues to evolve and change as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you can give advice as far as race day and prepping for that day or choosing a race? Like anything you wish you would have done differently?
Not really, because I don't really remember my thought process at the time as a little one. Um, so yeah, I don't really have anything in that regard. I'm just excited to keep doing them and keep like knowing myself better. And I've worn the same pair. This is kind of off topic, but not. I've worn the same pair of leggings. I still wear them every single long run. I wore them my first marathon. I wore them my second marathon.
Those maroonish brownish ones, right?
They're orange, like a burnt orange. I like
They're bar 3.
They're bar 3, yeah, brand, but they're a different like actual brand. That's just like the store that I bought it from or the fitness place, whatever. I want to still wear them, but I think I need to get a new pair of tights. So I would just say find your die-hard pair of clothing because that's really what's important. Like I've worn the same sports bra too, and I really need a new one, but I can't let it go because it's just too good. And I don't know what I'm gonna do when it finally gets
You're right. Your
done.
ride or die bra, man. That is for real for ladies.
Yeah.
I have ride or die underwear.
You
I
have
have
panties. You do. You
I
do.
have these cotton granny panties that I wear, and I've worn every single marathon. So much so that the elastic started to get exposed, and I would start trimming the elastic so it wouldn't chafe me. I can't let go of them.
They're so ugly.
They're big, fat, ugly granny panties, but they work. And I did not get, I used my hoo-ha. I used to get chafed in areas nobody should talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
Not wear underwear, and I can't not wear underwear.
Yeah, I don't wear underwear. I don't wear underwear in my well, I mean, it's got the cotton crotch and stuff, but like just exactly for what you were talking about, Lori, and getting the chafing. When I first started running, I would get chafe around my bikini area in the front, and like or like ingrown hairs. I mean, probably TMI, but this is real stuff that you deal with, right? And you try to go and put like a ton of Body Glide on there, and it's like, oh my God, this is like absolutely heinous. So, so yeah, I talked, it was like my first marathon, and I was complaining about my underwear, and I was running with a bunch of other women, and I said, does anybody have like an underwear like brand or type that you recommend? And every single woman that I was running with, they were like, we're just run Commando. And I'm like, really? So I remember the first time doing it, I was like, I feel naked. And now it's just like, it's just the norm. So yeah. Yeah. But everybody's different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely have to have my underwear.
Yeah. So any eateries that you would want to call out, Laura or Maggie, from Grand Rapids? Because I mean, I know we hit like a couple of the breweries, but I think there was a really good pizza place, right, that we hit.
Yeah, well, like I said, we hit Founders Brewing, which was a beautiful, beautiful brewery. I think they had a lot of really pretty outdoor space.
It was gorgeous. Yes.
It was gorgeous. It was really big. Obviously fantastic beer because they have nationwide distribution. Unfortunately, we went to Grand Rapids Brewing Company, and it shut down. They had a massive fire in February of 2024.
That's a shame.
And they decided that it was just that they were done. They were going to rebuild and decided not to. I think a highlight was the Mitten Brewing Company, because Michigan's shaped like a mitten. That brewery is in the historic engine house number 9. So it's this beautiful brick building, and they had fantastic pizzas, which I think we had that was our pre-race meal. I do believe we did that for dinner.
Yes.
And they had really cool flights. Their beer flights were on a mitten. I think they had 6 different samples, which is very generous because normally you only get 4 in a flight. So that was awesome. And I think that was, I feel like we did 4. No, there's one more. We did Atwater Brewing. And I think that may be where you guys were playing Jenga. I have a video of you two playing Jenga.
Yeah. They had a bunch of games and stuff on their lower level. And yeah, we were playing a couple of mean games of Jenga, and it was like the massive Jenga. So when it falls, it's like you have to make sure your feet don't get crushed, in the process.
I was watching the video of you two playing, and I'm like, oh, it's going to fall. It's going to fall. And I'm like watching the video for like a full minute. I videoed, but apparently it never fell. I'm like, why was I videoing this? I don't know.
I love it.
Of you guys playing Jenga.
I love it. All right. So Maggie, if we were to run it again, would you run it again?
Yes, because I would think I would have a much more pleasant experience and remember it better than I do today. So
okay. No, that's solid. Run it again. That's solid. I would definitely run that again. It wasn't it wasn't one of those, like, to me, like, challenging courses because it didn't have, the hills and what have you. But because of Lori, exactly what you talked about earlier in the conversation around it being just a really, really well run race. And they had food and beer for us at the end, and for some of you, but it was nice. It was a nicely done. So if Maddie ever decides to run the state of Michigan, we would totally run that again with her.
Laura, she may never want to run Michigan. You need to let it go.
I know. Because I keep throwing it out there because she listens to the podcast every week, and I feel like if I say it enough, I'm going to brainwash her.
I would like to use this opportunity to speak on behalf of your family. If you're going around a second time, you might be on your own in this endeavor. We haven't signed up to do all of this. We're just having fun doing some marathons here.
That's cool. That's cool. Lori, would you do it again?
Yeah, do it again? I do it again. Yeah, I do it again. There's breweries I haven't hit. Plus, it was a.
She's like, I gotta get that damn T-shirt.
What that sure. But we also had an added bonus for this one too. So when Dave and I first got together, we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where Maggie and DJ were born. And our neighbors, they were a little older than us, but they were like, they were on their pregnant with their third kid when I was pregnant with Maggie. So Allison and Maggie are a little less than a year apart, I think, right? Anyway, we always called them our practice babies because we babysat for them all the time. And then, you know, life does things and you wind up different places. And we moved to Florida and they moved to Michigan. So they live in Lansing, Michigan. So it was so cool because we actually Maggie and I flew out a little early and we got to see Brenda and Jim and Dylan. I don't think we saw Allison. We didn't see Allison and Chelsea, did we? No, but it was just really cool to be able to reconnect with old friends that, you know, we see each other, we text happy birthdays, you know, I see her on Facebook, but it was cool because we actually got to spend a night with them and, you know, just see their life now. So it's fun to reconnect with them. So I would definitely do it again, just to be able to also go see Jim and Brenda because they're still in Lansing.
I love that.
Jim. Hi, Brenda.
And we've definitely done that, you know, seeing whether it's family or you know, friends from the past. In future episodes, we'll talk about that as well. But it is always nice when you're close enough to be able to go and see folks that you don't normally see on a day-to-day.
Yeah, it was really cool to reconnect.
Cool.
So
next week.
Will we all be here together again? Perhaps.
I feel like we will be here all together again because we, on Sunday, are running the Blob Fest half marathon. Which, if you, we interviewed Mike Ragazzino a few weeks ago, and he is the race director for the Blob Fest. And so if you listened and tuned into that, you'll know a little bit about what we are doing and what the Blob Fest is about, but we will also recap it next week. So I'm super excited to run that. And I think Laura and I dare say, are we going to be training?
Let's see how my tummy feels.
Okay.
There might be a little bit, we might be mirroring the Broad Street run a little bit, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, we're preparing for the Marathon du Medoc, and I think we need to try not doing a Cabernet, but I think we need to try a Sauvignon
Cabernet
Blanc.
running 10 miles with a shot of Cabernet at every mile, even though the wine was really tasty, not great. Like, not great.
No, I had the worst cotton mouth ever.
Yeah, that was a little challenging, but yeah, we'll see how my tummy feels because we'll see how my tummy feels.
And
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Curious. The peer pressuring of the drinking has not trickled down. You should not run like this. I mean, you can, it's fun, but I have never experienced a run in the way that
and neither has Maddie. Maddie has not as well. You know, so she partook the night before her first marathon. So when we get Maddie,
excuse me, Philly.
Oh,
2023. Okay. Your daughter
led
the charge.
I walk that back. She is my daughter.
Girlfriend was doing things. You were
peer pressured. You were peer pressured, Lorri, to like keep up. So yeah.
I was like, I can't let Maddie do this by herself.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely talk about the Blob, which, by the way, during the episode next week, I will talk about the Blob, the movie, because I actually watched it on the plane.
Ooh, yay. Okay, so should this be a homework assignment that we should all watch?
Be a homework assignment.
I'm gonna go see it in the Colonial Theater this weekend.
It'll be an hour and 21 minutes you cannot get back from your life.
Well, it's only an hour and 21 minutes. I need to get tickets.
Hour and 21 minutes, exactly.
Hell yeah. We can handle
it. The credits beginning and end as well.
Let's just keep in mind it was made in 1958, okay?
It has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a good score.
You got to watch it. So, okay.
Okay.
That's everyone's homework. Listeners out there.
Yes.
All right. So, next week, our episode 24?
25.
Right?
Big
25. I'm making 25 next week. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. So episode 25 will be a recap of our Blobfest weekend. So I'm excited about that. Okay, we want to thank you guys for joining us today. Now go make mile 20 your bitch.
Peace out.